Alright, so welcome to this very late night edition for That One Sportsman. And no, there was no videos yesterday or technically today. However, this was canceling count for the video for yesterday, August 29th. Cough is getting slowly better. We're working there by there, little by little. Yeah, so it was Labor Day weekend. As I said before, a previous video, I'm in college, so I'm back home to kind of visit my family. So right now was kind of the best time for me to kind of make this video, and there'll be a bunch of videos I would have pre-recorded in hopes of the NFL season over, which I confused it. That's on me. I misread the schedule and thought it was today, yesterday, and thank God it wasn't, because I had a train delay for about an hour and a half, and I personally would have crashed out in that train if I missed the whole thing. So thank goodness I didn't miss it. But no, yeah, I'm back home, spend time with my family. So yeah, no, and what better way to spend family with than football? So, with the preseason concluded, I will basically go through every single team and kind of rank their preseason overall based on tier list. We have amazing. This is kind of teams that I thought was very enjoyable during this 4 weeks we had of football from a lot of third stringers. Grade kind of is they were very good, but they weren't amazing. Pretty good is just kind of they were a kind of above average teams. These are teams that I was kind of oh, these are teams that was caught me by surprise in one aspect or another, or just kind of overall it was they're pretty good. Mid kind of is just kind of they were just average. Nothing really of note that could be said about them, but they weren't horrible. Below average is kind of they kind of were not up to expectations of what I wanted them to be. Trash is, trash, and then unwatchable is, as I said, very much unwatchable. I'm drinking a very nice Dr. Pepper, strawberries and cream, zero sugar. Love that thing. That thing is cracked. And speaking of cracked, the Bills' offensive line was absolutely cracked against the Bears, and they'll be starting off this team. So that was the entire thing, because it's going mainly alphabetical order. The Bills. So if we were to look at their preseason as a whole, the totality of it, they got smoked by the Bears 33-6. They slowly dying from cough by this guy. They had what was it? It was 3 kicks against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Trying to double check. It was it was 3 kicks. They literally won by 9 points because all they could do was kick the ball. And then 31-26 Panthers. They got beat by the Panthers, of all people. This team, in terms of watching for a preseason, honestly pretty trash. This was not an enjoyable team. I did not enjoy it. The only time I enjoyed it was watching the Bears absolutely annihilate them. But that's the point. Next up is the Miami Dolphins. Miami, throughout this time, I also will say kind of records. Yeah, Bills went 1-2. Miami went 2-1. They had pretty good game against the Falcons. They won 20-13. They beat the Commanders 13-6, and they lost to the Buccaneers 24-14. Overall, it was they weren't a bad team to watch. They really weren't. Tua has some good plays in there. I will say, kind of not gonna lie. They kind of just played what I expected them to be, with the loss of Christian Wilkins and some other noticeable players, especially on the offensive line. So overall, I would say this is pretty mid, honestly. This was pretty mid, I would say. However, I would say they're probably mid to above mid, if you know what I mean. Next up is the New England Patriots. Outside of the occasional Drake Maya play, this is a pretty below average team to watch. They weren't that enjoyable. The only enjoyable times I had watching them is whenever Drake Maya would getting the game starting and like chucking that ball down the field. Yeah, they went like 1-2, and they actually had like more of a positive point differential, which I thought was like pretty at least good for them. Good showing of them. But like no, yeah, no, this team was enjoyable. This team was enjoyable in spite of the Drake Maya hype. So I would say this team overall is pretty below average. So like was below average team to watch. Next up's the Jets. I mean, if you like defense, I would say it's pretty good. It was pretty good. I would say they're probably like great if you really enjoy defense. I enjoy defense a little bit more than offense. So I say this is a pretty good team to watch. They went undefeated. However, this would probably be like the the lowest ranked undefeated team we have here. And there's teams that have losing records that have like worse like seasons than like this. So it's just kind of like yeah, this would probably be like the lowest ranked like undefeated team. So that's the AFC East. Next we go to the AFC North. The Ravens. The Ravens went 1-2. They basically won it. However, it was just like this conference, like as a whole, it kind of just shows me of like contracts and kind of like the depth of like rosters can like impact it. Because this team, they were all right to watch. They barely beat the Falcons by one. Like, that's how bad it was. They lost to the Eagles by 3, and they lost to the Packers by 23. So like, I mean, like they had like good-ish plays like here and there. There's like a couple times where I thought they were like pretty solid to watch, particularly on more of the defense. So I say it's probably like the top of like below average in terms of like an enjoyability. I would say that. Bengals, on the other hand, was more closer to like that trash. Mainly just because of the fact of just like because like the only time I enjoyed watching them was like when they played against the Bears and they got smoked 27-3. However, when they play against the Colts and they play against like the Buccaneers, they were like slightly closer games, but they just weren't enjoyable. They just really weren't that enjoyable. So like just for that reason, I just have to put them in like kind of the trash category. Unlike this team, the Browns, they just sucked. I hated watching the Browns the entire preseason because it just like they just weren't doing anything right. Like the amount of like quarterback play they had like out there, like it just like the only one that should realistically be like on this roster after all should be like Jameson Winston. The only close game they had was against the Seahawks. Like that was the only close game they kind of had, but like it was more of like the Seahawks just kind of got bored. Like that's all it was. Like the Seahawks realistically got kind of bored partway through it, and it was just kind of like, oh okay, like I mean they're like yeah sure I guess we'll just let you like score a couple more points because like we're still gonna win no matter what. But it's just kind of like so it's just kind of like they just none of the like most of the players from the Browns they just suck like James like Tyler Huntley, Dorian Thompson Robinson, and like Jameson Winston was like the most like common like line of their. They basically bring out all three of them, and all three of them have like different types of suck. Like the only one I like is Jameson Winston on this roster. That's the only one I like on there, and it was just like unwatchable. However, unlike them, which was like a winless team. This other winless team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say was actually more enjoyable to watch because we got to solve the experiments of like Russell Wilson and Justin Fields together basically. Excuse me. But like no, yeah, no, it was just it was just enjoyable to kind of like watch in the sense of like we kind of got to see kind of like how like the lineup would kind of like work out. And just like overall, it's just like it just wasn't like the most enjoyable to watch. Like, yeah, they were part of like that 9-3 Bills, but however they did kind of get beat by. They gave Lions more of a closer game, and they lost by like more than a touchdown to like the Texans. So So it's just kind of yeah, no, they kind of deserve to be more than that kind of below average. Because at least like for them, they had like more fun plays, and they had a much more fun concept where we all knew had the possibility of sucking, and it was more of like a they just proved us right. Really, that's kind of what it was for at least for this preseason. Next up is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just the Jaguars, I would say it was actually pretty good. This actually was a pretty fun team to watch. Trevor Lawrence and the Mac Jones redemption arc was honestly pretty enjoyable to watch, in my view. And just kind of like, no, yeah, like it was just pretty good. Like they won all the games. They had they had the second highest like point differential by with 57. They outscored their opponents in total by 57. And not gonna lie, the defense wasn't as bad. Like they went 31-0 against the Falcons, 21-7 to the Buccaneers. In their closest game, they beat them by 13 to the Kansas City Chiefs. So that's a whole separate thing, kind of. But like no, like this was like a fun ass thing. Like they were pretty fun to watch. And honestly, like they just made me a little bit more excited to just kind of like watch them when they kind of like get to the season. At least that's in my view. Next up is the Texans. Texans, honestly, also pretty good. I enjoyed watching them. Like they were like very fun to watch. Kind of the games, or at least kind of like even if there was the games I couldn't really watch because it was just kind of like too many conflicting schedules. They still played like really well. Like no, yeah, like they lost to the Bears by like a technicality because of weather. They beat the Steelers still. They smoked the Giants and they barely lost to, like and they barely won against the Rams. It's just kind of like no, they had like again like all these like all these like kind of like these games. They were just more fun. Like personally, they were just more enjoyable. So it's just like I don't see it really much of a problem with kind of like the way it is. So like yeah, in my opinion, I think it's fair to say they were a pretty fun team to watch. The next up is the Colts. Colts honestly were kind of like pretty mid at least to me. They were mid for me because it's just kind of like again like they had a really good defense which was fun to watch. However, it just became but however a lot of that defense was on the secondary. So unless teams decide to say, oh hey fuck it, we're gonna run this ball down your throat, pause. But like teams basically just decided to do that just because they didn't want to deal with the secondary, and it just kind of made the games more boring. And a result of it, so like it was just kind of just like a just wasn't that enjoyable. Like it just really wasn't. So like no yeah like kind of excited and also plus also Anthony Richardson like yeah he was fun he was kind of fun to watch. However I didn't see enough rushing out of him to kind of like say this could have been more. So honestly, just for me, just in terms of enjoyable factor, I would say this was like pretty mid to me. Titans, honestly, the three quarterback setup was honestly pretty good. Like they belong in like this pretty good to honestly like they could probably end up being like that great category. Honestly, like let me just like pull up the record like 30-27 the Saints, 16-15 the Seahawks, and 17-13 the 49ers. Like no, yeah, like this was all the games were close and all the games were pretty fun to watch. Honestly, just from my view. So yeah, no, honestly, I would say it's great. Like the fact they were able to kind of compete with it was honestly pretty good for me, at least like for me to at least understand and know and watch that. Hey, maybe Will Levis is the future possibly with Mason Rudolph being the QB two because they decided to trade Malik Willis over to the Packers for like what was it? It was like a fifth round pick, which honestly makes sense. Give Malik a new start. However, at the same time, I'm just kind of like they just kind of did him wrong. Really, they just did him wrong. They could have put him on a different team. They should have maybe just like put him onto like I don't know like what's the team that needs like more. They could have traded to the Saints. If he, like Malik Willis on the Saints probably would have been actually been a pretty good idea, or the Vikings for what we're gonna talk about later on for them when we get to them. But like no, yeah, like I felt like the Titans. It was pretty fun what they did with the three quarterback constant rotation. However, I feel like they did Malik Willis kind of the dirtiest, honestly, in my opinion. I feel like they did him kind of dirty in his time with the Texans. With the Titans, I mean. Next up is the Broncos. Honestly, also say, great team to watch. I honestly enjoyed watching like Bo Nix playing. Like I thought he was actually pretty good, and also surprisingly, Zach Wilson was actually kind of entertaining to watch. I ain't gonna lie. However, I will say the one like blemish is like Jarrett Stidham. So because of that, I can't put them above like the Titans because of just Jarrett Stidham and kind of how he was kind of acting when it was announced that like Bo Nix was kind of the starter. Like Zach Wilson showed nothing but love. Like Zach Wilson is the Alex Moran of the NFL basically at this point in his career, which honestly just kind of makes sense for him. However, like Jarrett Stidham is just kind of like that one like it's kind of like that one it's kind of like that one dude that's just kind of like just jealous of everything. Like for no reason. And it's just kind of just annoy. It just kind of just annoys me. It's just like it just kind of does. It's just kind of I just like it just rubbed me the wrong way. I just can't keep talking about it. Also, next up, Chiefs. In terms of watching them in the preseason, honestly, very trash. Andy Reid had them play against the Detroit Lions with full starters, full everything, and they still lost. It was a comeback fucking win by the Lions. And like basically the Chiefs basically had like the advantage the entire time. They went winless in preseason. Yeah, I get it. I don't care about preseason, that sort of stuff. However, just from this an enjoyability sector, like the preseason is kind of like is more of like a benchmark of like what we can kind of tell how from these teams. So like, what's the mindset? What's the mentality? And it just kind of like no, like it just does. It just doesn't. It just doesn't really make sense for them to do it. Just seriously, no, like Andy Reid just having been like having all the stars play. It just felt more of just like a bitch move from him. Like it just really just did. I just didn't enjoy it. Next up's the Raiders. Honestly, kind of mid. Like they kind of played kind of what I expected them to kind of do. So like, there's not really much I can say. They went 0-2-1. They had one of the few ties. Like in these other times, no, they had the only tie actually. They had the only tie, so it's just kind of like the fact they only had the only tie kind of makes them kind of more unique in that way. So I would just say it's like, yeah, no, it's like honestly, it's like not that big of a deal. At least for me, it is. It isn't that big of a deal. Let's see. Next up, Chargers. Chargers had an absolute banger of a game against the Rams. But other than that, it was just like they just had like an okay day. They had like a pretty bad game against the Seahawks. They beat the Cowboys, but I had an absolute banger of a game against the Rams. However, I will say Rams Chargers was probably like, in my opinion, probably like the best preseason game this entire time. So, but however, the other games were like so painfully average and kind of like one of them kind of sucked that like I have to put them on top of that. Like I had to put them on top of it. They only had one banger of a game, but however, that game was a fucking banger. God damn, that game was so fun, so fun to watch, kind of. Let's see. Next up is Dallas Cowboys. We moved on from the AFC and went to the NFC. The Cowboys, honestly, they're very below average. I would say at the bottom of below average, almost top of trash. Like this team was not good to watch, and kind of like their inactivity from like from like the offseason kind of was showing itself in the fact that it was kind of just like no, like they just weren't doing as well. And speaking of not doing as well, Giants unwatchable, actually unwatchable. Daniel Jones in his first three drives. What team was he play? What team was he playing? Because I have to find this out. Just to remember real quick. Was it the Texans? I'll find it. Was it the Texans? No, not that. Not that. Jets. Come on, where is it? No, yeah, I need to find this game. Where is it? But Daniel Jones threw like a dumb ass free pass that kind of resulted in just kind of like a pick six, basically. And it was just kind of like, dude, come on. Like, this team was generally ass to watch. Like, it was like, this team was just not fun. They just weren't having fun at all the entire preseason. I can kind of tell with a guy like Daniel Jones being your quarterback. So it's just kind of like, yeah, no, like, it just doesn't make sense. Next up was the Eagles. I honestly would say kind of mid. Like, watching Kenny Pickett play well actually was actually pretty enjoyable. But other than that, like, the rest of the team was kind of mid. That's just kind of like my view of it. Next up is Commanders. Commanders also in that mid category. However, I will say like Jaden Daniels played kind of well, so I would say just kind of like probably put him like I put him between the Raiders and the Eagles. That seems like a fair ranking at least for me. Put him right there would be kind of nice. Okay, next up, the Bears. Probably biased, but as a Bears fan, I thought this was actually pretty amazing to watch. You know what? Actually, full bias. I thought this was amazing to watch as a Bears fan because it actually is giving me hope right now that we're actually going to play well. It's actually giving me hope, and I actually enjoy that. I love it. I think it's actually pretty good for me, at least. I need it. And speaking of amazing, Lions was actually pretty fun. Yeah, they have that one loss against the against the Giants. However, this team was amazing to watch. They had a bunch of just fun players. Like Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker was so fun to watch that entire time playing that I'm just like, he just deserves just opportunities. He just honestly deserves it. And players like him. Yawning, but we ain't done yet. Job ain't finished. In the words of Kobe. Okay, Green Bay Packers. Green Bay Packers. Honestly, I would say actually Packers weren't that bad actually of like watching it. At least from a Bears fan perspective, because like if you don't understand kind of like if like the Packers somehow do end up being the Bears, then it's kind of like we just kind of it kind of makes us look like shit. I don't want to look like shit. So just kind of like I had to kind of like keep like my knowledge over the Packers, and overall like they weren't actually playing that bad actually. They weren't playing that bad. Next up is the Vikings. I would actually say pretty good. No, yeah, actually pretty good. Cough, dying. That's one. Because the amount of injuries they had the entire time, they lost almost everyone. They lost everyone, including the fucking kitchen sink, and they still were managed to win 3 games in a row. Like this team was just fun to watch. It was kind of fun, kind of hearing like the sideline stories about what was happening. Not funny in a way. It was kind of like, oh, like, or like, hey, funny in the sense of like, oh my god, can this keep going? Like that's stuff. That more like kind of a shock value to it, really. So it's just kind of like that's just my opinion about it. Next up we have the NFC South, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay. I would say just for you, I would just say personally, I would say kind of mid because it wasn't really much of a standout game or standout performance for any of your one players on the roster. So it's just like I would just say it's kind of mid. Next up is the Saints. Saints, honestly, I would say just blow out because they have more of those like very like grinded out defensive games. Which I mean, it's something that I don't really. So like that's just kind of my opinion. I think like the Saints are probably like more the lower thing, and also I just kind of dozed off a little bit. Not gonna lie on camera. However, like no face cam, so you can't see my face. Kind of drew me to the side. However, we are gonna try to get this video kind of done, like kind of not relatively quickly, but like just quick enough. Which I mean, we kind of do because there's only 6 teams left, so fuck it, we will. Um, Atlanta, Atlanta. Honestly, I would say in that mid category. But however, I would say more than top to mid because they actually had some like good players on the roster that actually weren't like just dudes just fucking around on that team. No, they actually had like a real like genuine offseason. So like for me personally, I think it was actually kind of enjoyable. And then Panthers, they're just trash. I wouldn't say unwatchable because they did have like some moments that I thought were pretty good. However, this is like the worst of the trash teams. This is the worst non-unwatchable like teams. Arizona Cardinals, I would also say in like trash to like not mid range, but like I feel like here. I would say kind of like that. And oh god, I'm like zoning out a little bit. I need to kind of hurry this video up. I'm just getting up before like I fall asleep on this table. Oh my god. Okay, keep going. Rams. Personally, I think with the Rams, I think it just kind of makes sense. And just kind of how the Packers, no, the Rams is pretty good because like again, they had like that one absolute banger of a game. Like it was a certified banger. And even then, the other games, actually, all of them were all very close. So just because of that, I just have to kind of give it to them. I just kind of have to. I have to give it to the Rams. Next up was the 49ers. I would say actually below average in terms of what I expected the performance to be. I was gonna be a little bit more, but it wasn't as high. So I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, then I get definitely because I don't think this is like a really good idea of how to like use my tax dollars for these schools. But that's the point. Next up is Seahawks. Seahawks, honestly, I would say it's kind of mid. It's kind of mid. Nothing really too much. Nothing really too like enjoyable. And then like yeah, no, like that's the overall kind of like the list I have for like the NFL preseason. Hopefully you guys kind of enjoy it, and then make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down in the video below. State your kind of comments and opinions and or concerns. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening, or well, technically very early morning for some people. And yeah, no, hope you all enjoy it. Have a good rest of your night, and enjoy out there.